Am I live? Oh, it looks like I'm live. Okay, cool. So, this is Chris from the Rewired Soul. It is National Addiction Recovery Month. And I was going to do a video. I'm going to do a bunch of videos like this month on my YouTube channel. But I was like doing it. I was like, which one should I do to kick off National Recovery Month? I'm like, you know what? I am going to do a live Q&A where I will let you come in here and ask me anything you need to about addiction, about mental illness, about how mental illness ties in with addiction, how all that stuff works. So come join me. Hopefully you will in a second. And in the meantime, I'm going to start sharing this stuff on my other pages so people will come and ask me questions. All right. So if anybody joins, just you know what to do. You know what to do. Start asking questions and stuff. And meanwhile, I'll be doing this. All right. All right. Let's see what's going down. All right. Share on. All right. Is anybody in there? Is anybody in the chat? I don't. Nope, not yet. Okay. Wait, maybe. What? Oh, did somebody join? Oh, a few people joined. All right. So, anyways, you guys joining in. You see the description. I'm doing live Q&A for National Recovery Month. So start asking questions. Like if you have questions about addiction, about recovery. I just wrote my book, Caught in the Crossfire. Hopefully you've checked it out, and hopefully you've joined the private Facebook group. I think it's going good so far. There's some good questions and topics and answers. But yeah, if you're dealing with somebody out there who has an addiction, like ask me questions. If you have questions about the book, come in, ask me that. I'll try to elaborate a little bit more. But yeah, I'm gonna start sharing this video in the different groups and stuff like that, so more people come and join the chat and ask questions. So if you have anything, just get it rolling, and I will see it in a second because I'm just sharing stuff right now. Oh, dang. Yeah, that reminds me. I need to keep working on my book. Ooh. So I'm sharing that in that group. I'm all jacked up on caffeine. I just went to the gas station. Got my Rockstar. You're probably going to hear me in like 2 minutes yell to my son to go get another Rockstar. Because, yeah, I was like super tired. And then, yeah. Now I'm getting all jazzed up. I see some people in there. Why? Don't be shy. Oh, snap. People are asking questions already. Why don't I have the chat? What is your view on Suboxone maintenance? That is a great question, Jeremiah Jackson. What is my view on Suboxone maintenance? So, okay. Like, I've been meaning to do a video on this, so I guess I'll talk about it now. Then I guess I'll do another video. So check it. Check it. Okay. So, I have very strong views and opinions on Suboxone and Methadone. Now, when it comes to both Suboxone and Methadone, I hope you guys know what that stuff is. It's withdrawal medicine from opiates. I like at the treatment center I work at. I'm very happy that we do a very quick taper of Suboxone. Usually, people are off of it within about a week, which is good. That is good. Like when I got clean, first off, fun story. I lied to the doctor about how much I was using. I was like, yeah, I just took like 4 Lortabs a day or whatever, and I was like snorting a ton of morphine. And he didn't give me any withdrawal medicine. He didn't give me any Suboxone. So meanwhile, the guys in my sober living, like they're on these like Suboxone maintenances, and like me, I'm sitting there like going through cold turkey opiate detox. I called up the doctor and told him, I'm like, I lied to you, man. I need some Suboxone. He's like, guess you shouldn't have lied. Click. So I did a cold turkey opiate detox, which was rough. But yeah, Suboxone should be tapered off really quick. Some of the guys I got sober with, they were on it for months. They were on it for months, and they had brutal withdrawal from it. And so I think it should be quick. Methadone, I hate methadone. The fact, like, I'm two ways on methadone. Studies show that places that have free methadone clinics have far less addiction rates. It helps the economy, lowers crime rates, lowers um, infectious diseases, all that stuff, which is cool. But I don't like when the government is just like, here's an opiate that we can control. You take it and you quit robbing, stealing, and spreading diseases, and just stay on methadone forever. So Suboxone's good, but I think it should be tapered off pretty quick. Hope that answered the question. One sec, I'm just sharing this in another group real quick. Ooh, look at you, Jeremiah, just asking all the questions. If you, well, I'm just posting this in a group. I'll be with you in one second. Okay, so what do you? Hold on. What do you think the best aftercare plan for somebody leaving treatment is? So check this out. Statistics show that people who leave treatment and do aftercare for at least once a week for their first year are 80% more likely to stay sober that first year than somebody who doesn't. How crazy is that? You have an 80% success rate of staying clean for a year if you do aftercare once a week. I just had some clients ask me about this. So one of the issues with the American healthcare system is that a lot of insurance companies are not going to cover aftercare that long. A lot of treatment centers actually offer free aftercare to alumni. The organization I work with, we have an alumni program, and we do a meeting once a week. I would say it's similar to aftercare, just the way that we run it. It's a 12-step meeting, but it's kind of like aftercare. So, but that transitions into my next topic. If you go to a treatment facility that does not have aftercare, or say you go to a treatment facility and go back home and you can't get into aftercare, go to meetings. If you go to meetings for that first year, and you also got to be doing stuff behind it if you want to fall into the 80% and not the 20% of the people who relapse, that is a great option too. Like 12-step programs are amazing if you find the right ones, and that's one of the reasons I'm working on my new book. It's going to be a much bigger book. Like, I write a lot of ebooks that are pretty short. My new book is going to talk about some of that stuff and how you filter out what you need to filter out in 12-step programs to actually get it, because there's so many misconceptions and just all sorts of just nonsense out there about 12-step programs, and they save lives. The people who relapse are the ones who are stubborn and don't want to do them. They're like, no, I'm not gonna work that program. Did they say God? And stuff like that. And I get it. That's how I was. But 12-step programs save lives. So aftercare, if you want the free route, 12-step programs. Like, what? Like, they're free. They're free. Like, what's better than free? Free stuff is great. Methadone may have saved my life. How long were you on methadone, right? Wait, the clinic I'm on. Oh, you're in a clinic right now. You do groups once a week. Okay, yes. Ray, I'm glad you brought that up. So, like, those are the methadone clinics that I agree with. The ones that I love. Because there's some states, some cities, some counties where they're just opening it up for methadone. They're like, here's methadone, get out of my face. Right? But there's other facilities, and it sounds like that's what you're at, Ray, where they actually do programming there. Their hope is that one day you won't need this methadone. One day you can get off. One day you can be 100% clean. That's the way it should be done. I wish in a perfect world all the methadone clinics were like that. Unfortunately, they're not. There's people who are just on methadone for years, and there's no kind of treatment behind it. So some people are just as miserable as they were when they were doing heroin or pills or whatever it is. So I'm glad you brought that up. Is there a way to talk one-on-one with me? Yes, there is. Shoot me a message and we'll set something up. I'm actually trying to work. I get so busy. I'm trying to launch something on my website, rewiredsoul.com, for one-on-ones, because I get that a lot, and yeah. But yeah, shoot me a message and we'll talk. I'm down to 26 milligrams from 120 milligrams. See? Good. I like that. Where are you from, Ray? Where is that happening? Methadone did save my life. So, David, you too. How long are you still on methadone? How long have you been taking methadone? Does your facility actually provide treatment, or do they just give you the methadone and send you on your way? And one of the things, just so you know, one of my issues with long-term methadone is that the dependency, the physical dependency of that stuff is brutal. Brutal. The first detox center that I went into, well, the only detox center I went into, when I was coming off of alcohol and pills, there was this woman in there, and she had been on methadone for like 10 years, and she was so deathly afraid to come off it. And methadone is like the only opiate that actually, when you become dependent, it's inside of your bone marrow, like that stuff inside your bone. So it takes a really long time to get off of it. So when you make somebody extremely dependent to it, like they might be on it just for life, unless they want to go through like a pretty brutal withdrawal. So if you guys are still on methadone, I would just think and talk about working your way off of it. If it's like, so don't get it too long. Like even if it's just 6 months to a first year, like even that I think is pretty long. But yeah, I think this chat thing here sucks. I think we should decriminalize drugs, open heroin clinics, and treat this like the health crisis it is. Yes. What do I think? I think removing the criminal part ends most of the stigma. Just look at it. Just look at the way alcoholics are more acceptable than the addict. Yeah. So if any of you have seen that video, there's a TED Talk about this dude talking about addiction. He wrote a book too. And that's kind of where I learned what they were doing in, where was it, Portugal? Basically what they did, they decriminalized all drugs. Like they had a prison situation kind of like we did, where just most of the people in prison were there for drug and alcohol related crimes. And they started looking at it and they said, let's decriminalize drugs. And what their government did was they, rather than locking people up, let's say the guy was a mechanic, they would go to like the addict, the person who had criminal charges. They would go, it's almost like a drug court program. The government would go to a local auto repair shop. They would go to the owner and say, listen, hire this guy. We will pay half of his wages. Give him a job. And they're like, okay. And they saw their addiction rate or relapse rate plummet to 50%. Now, is that something the United States should do? Yeah, absolutely. Like we should do anything that we're doing right now. Right now, just in my opinion, and this isn't, and like I don't like getting political, like don't think of this as just, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, none of that stuff. It's just the people there right now. Like I don't care what party they're in. The people in there right now are looking at it completely wrong. Jeff Sessions was just up there. I did a video about this on my YouTube channel. Like, go check my YouTube channel, the one where Trump talks about the opioid crisis. A lot of it's mainly about Jeff Sessions. Jeff Sessions wants to criminalize it even more. Now, countless studies have proven that that is the wrong way. So, for example, just to paint a picture, and I think I might have done this in another video, to paint a picture. Young kid, let's say 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Let's say this kid is even in his 20s, right? He's using dope, he's smoking pot, he's on meth, he's whatever it is, because he had a rough childhood, maybe he just got addicted to it, whatever the case may be. They criminalize this kid, they put him in jail, right? This kid has a record now. He has a record. I don't know if any of you watching this stream right now have a record, but like as soon as you get a felony or even some records, like it is hard to get a job. It's hard to get a job. So somebody becomes addicted to drugs because it's the only way they know how to deal with life. Then they leave prison and they cannot get a job. So now they fall back into depression. They can't make money. Maybe this person was also a drug dealer. They go back to what they know. So we just recreate that cycle of addiction. Like it's bananas. Like countless studies show this happen. And so like, I don't know, maybe if jobs were a little bit more, and this is something I think across the board. Okay, let me take a step back real quick. Not across the board. Like, I think mainly for drug-related crimes, certain crimes, employers really need to rethink their whole hiring a criminal thing. Like prison is supposed to be a form of rehabilitation. People go, they serve their time, they get rehabilitated, and they come out. And there's a stigma about everybody who goes in there. So employers are like, oh, you have a record? Well, I'm not hiring you. Like, man, like I'm extremely fortunate that I never had legal issues as a result of my addiction. I am so fortunate because I cannot even imagine how hard it would be for me to get a job. And like, my life is completely different 5 years later. And to think that somebody can go to jail or prison or get a felony or whatever it is and not be able to get a job, even though they're a completely different person, they learn from their mistakes and stuff like that, like, that breaks my heart. So I think there's, not only with criminalizing alcohol and drugs, but I think employers really need to just start looking at this thing. Like, but it's brutal too, because at the rehab center I work in, I have so many people who come through treatment who have a record, and they're scared as hell to leave treatment because they want to do better in their life, but they know for a fact that they're going to be limited on the jobs they can get. And then the other thing is too, here's the other crazy part. Here is the other crazy part. You cannot, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you cannot get financial aid. You cannot get government financial aid for schooling if you have a felony. How counterproductive is that? You ruin your life. We want you to become a productive member of society, but here's the catch. We're not going to educate you. Like, what? Like, how? Like, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, let these people leaving prison get a college education. Like, I think there might be some wiggle room. I know some felons who went back and got education, but I've heard of that being an issue. So, there's a lot of problems. Like, I don't know, like, if we're addicted to drugs and alcohol, the United States is addicted to putting people in prison. And I won't go into this, like, maybe I need to create a whole nother YouTube channel about, the government. But because of all the privatized prison systems, all the people making money off of locking people up, like, we are addicted to putting people in jail. We are just such a punishing country. It is insane. Like, and it's crazy too, because you can see that ideology manifest in different ways. Even if we're not putting people in prison, you can just go through your Facebook feed and see how Americans just don't like forgiving people. We hold grudges. That, like, it is crazy. And one of the things that I love about meditation and getting into all this stuff is that it talks about, I need to do a video on this. It talks about how forgiveness isn't an act of compassion towards the other person. Forgiving somebody else is an act of compassion towards yourself. You know what I mean? And we are the type of people, lock them up, throw away the key, give them the electric chair. And it's like, all right, like, I just always think about that because so many of you, like, anybody watching this video, like, most of you know Sober, Happy, Helping People Chris. You got to realize, for a decade of my life, I was garbage. Like, not even a decade. A decade was when I was addicted, but before my addiction, I was very selfish, self-centered, and stuff like that. So I always have to think, like, what if you people didn't give me another chance? What if you people didn't listen to me? What if going into the treatment center, nobody took anything I said because they looked at my past and what I did? Like, we need to start realizing that people change. They become new people. We gain knowledge. We gain wisdom. And we're just this country where we punish everybody. Sorry, my son came in. He's like, who are you talking to? Somebody getting all crazy. Anyways, yeah, I can go on forever. All right, let's see. Do 2 groups a week. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. All right, 2 groups a week. That's a pretty long taper, but that's awesome. Ooh, my buddy Josh joined. Okay, and I've been in it for 4 years. Dang, been clean 2 years. I'm on my way off, and I can't wait to be like, okay, that's cool. Like, at least, like, see, both of you are in methadone. So just like, we were talking about methadone. Both of you are in methadone programs where they're working you towards getting off of it. That's cool. Like, do that as long as you need to. As long as you have this end goal in sight. Like, not even in sight, just in mind. Like, just when people are just like, well, I'm just gonna stay on methadone forever. It's like, I don't know about that. what do you recommend for people who are against 12-step or AA? I'm not, but get this question asked often. People who are against 12, my this is gonna sound rough, but my common answer to that is quit being a baby. Like people who are against 12-step programs. Okay, there's a quote in the Big Book. All right, you all ready for this? There's a quote in the Big Book that really sunk into my head. It's a quote from Herbert Spencer, which is debatable if you Google who actually said this quote. But it talks about there's nothing more that can leave a man in everlasting ignorance. Ignorance is a lack of knowledge, right? So everlasting ignorance, and that is contempt prior to investigation. Most people who are against 12-step programs have not worked a 12-step program. So contempt prior to investigation. Here's the analogy I always give. My son, when he was a baby, you give him baby food. Let's say it's like mushed up carrots, and he's just loving it. He's like, nom, 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 all right? And he's a baby. He doesn't know any better. Then you give him mushed peas, different color, maybe different smell, whatever it is. And you go to feed it to him, and he's like, and like you're like, what are you doing? You haven't even tried to eat it. And my son's 8.5 now. He's getting better with food. But those of you who have kids, like how many times do your kids or children refuse to try something, saying they don't like it before they even tried it? That is probably, I would say, if I had to make a statistic, that's probably 90% of the people who are against 12-step programs. They say, that's not going to work. I'm not going to do that. This is dumb. And then you ask them, have you ever worked a 12-step program? And they say, no. Now, here's where some of you are like, or some people, when you talk about this, they're going to say, well, I went to a meeting before and I didn't like it. Well, here's the thing that most addicts need to understand is that first off, you have lost the right to make decisions. Your brain does not think properly. That's something that we need to figure out. So just because you don't like it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. Like, we have to make a change because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. The highest relapse rates are for people who were living a certain lifestyle, come into my addiction treatment center, they leave and do the exact same things they were doing before treatment, and then they relapse and they're confused about it. It's like, well, yeah, you did the same thing, so you're going to get the same results. So people who are against 12-step AA, I can do video upon video on this. For the people, see, I'm of the belief, even though 12-step programs saved my life and like I advocate for them all the time, I'm of the belief that, you know, I'd rather have somebody work an alternative than die, right? I often tell my clients, I don't care what program you work, just work a program, you know? But I really try to convince people, like, just give it an honest try. Give it an honest try. And when I say give it an honest try, go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps. If you do those 3 things, like they say in meetings all the time, they will gladly refund your misery. I found that my experience was I was skeptical for 3 months. I went to meetings for 3 months saying this is a bunch of BS. It's not going to work. And then I finally was able to get humble and ask for a sponsor and give this thing an honest try. But I got to tell you, in those 3 months, like the proof was there. I kept saying, I do a group on what sold me on 12-step programs. You can divide people, and you can divide addicts and alcoholics into 2 groups. Okay, like I saw in meetings just going in there, on this side, you had people who were staying sober, they were happy, they were saying they were getting their lives back. Okay, so that's a pretty cool group. They're living a good life. And then over here you have this other group, and there's people who are relapsing, and there's people who are miserable. And the difference between these 2 groups is the happy group, they said the same things. They had the same formula. I go to meetings, I have a sponsor, I work the steps, and I talk to my support group. And I'm like, wait, 100% of you do that and you're all happy and sane? Like, I'd have to be a crazy person not to do that. Like, you know, like, how did you survive jumping out of the airplane? Oh, well, I pulled the parachute. And it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll try that. You know, even though I don't think it'll work, maybe I'll try that. So, I don't know. I try to convince them, and we'll see what happens. Like, some people are just too stubborn for their own good, you know, and it sucks because it'll kill them. So, you know, if I'm working with a client who is really, 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 really reluctant to go to 12-step programs, I will give them information about other programs, whether it be Smart Recovery. I've been going to Refuge Recovery meetings. That is a good alternative, because I've been reading the books, their literature. It has a lot of the same message as 12-step programs, but it's based around the Buddhist philosophy. So there are alternatives out there. It's just I'm sold on AA because people in AA have been sober longer than I've been alive. Smart Recovery has been around for like, what, 20 or 30 years? And this is just my experience, but I don't vouch for Smart Recovery because the most clean time I've ever seen in there is 2 years. Like, and I know it's because they're a smaller fellowship, they haven't been around as long as AA, but like if I started meeting more people who had 10, 15 years working the Smart Recovery program, I would vouch for it a lot more. But I can't do that because I haven't met those people. Whereas 12-step programs, it's like, okay, look, if these people used to be as hopeless as you were, maybe they know what to do because they've been sober for a really long time. Sorry, I got a little in depth on that. That's a fun topic. Let's see. Methadone worked for me for a while, but then I started to taper off. I went right back to heroin. Yep, because withdrawals are terrible. And that's something like I'm glad that, you know, some of these people are in treatment centers where, or methadone clinics where they're doing like medical assistance with tapering. Maybe, can you get felonies expunged after a certain amount of time? That's like state to state. That depends on your judge. That depends on your lawyer. Legal stuff is something I'm not well versed in. I do like to do a lot of research and study stuff, but law is more confusing than insurance, and insurance is confusing as hell. So I will say this: my two friends who I got sober with in California, they both had felonies that got expunged, but in that city, in Fresno, California, they had a drug court program. So typically cities that have drug court programs and you have drug-related felonies, they can get expunged as long as you graduate the drug court program and keep staying sober. That's another thing that I'll talk about. I hate this idea that people, like, I hate when people are like, oh, you were just sent here by the prison, or you were sent here by the judge, or, you know, even in meetings and stuff, and like, just get your meeting slip signed. And it's like, two of my best friends who have 5 years sober today. Imagine how many people can actually stay sober for 5 years. Two of my best friends came through the drug court program. So when people like kind of like look down on those who get clean through a drug court program and think they don't really want this thing, like two of my best friends, like one of them's getting married in a few weeks. Both of them have jobs and careers, like houses now, and like their life is amazing. Like, thank God for the drug court program. Like, I don't know, like we need to quit judging. Like, why do we judge people so much? We're a very judgy society as well. Housing is very hard with the record. Oh, yes. Oh God. Like what? I don't know. Somebody, we need some people to make some changes. Depends. Right? I'm in PA. I'm addicted to memes. Josh, you might want to go to Meme Anonymous. Be careful though. You might end up in Crystal Meth Anonymous. The letters are similar. Prisons are big business. I'm probably missing a lot. Oh, hey, look, there's other people. People are talking. You guys are just talking to each other. How's that vegetarian diet going? Day one is down. So check this out. I was going to do a video on this. Vegetarian day one. Like, I did some other vegetarian days, just kind of off and on. I just wasn't fully committing to it. So yesterday was like my first fully committing day, because on vegetarian days I was usually with my girlfriend or just other days throughout the week. But yesterday was like girlfriend free, just me and my son. And I picked him up. I took him to his swim thing that he does, and then we went to Best Buy. I'm trying to get some new video equipment so I don't look like a mess. Like, my video quality is not great. I need to start using this camera. I've been using a different camera. Anyways, so we go to Best Buy, and my son loves Panda Express. I love Panda Express. So he begged me. I'm like, fine. And it was like torture seeing this like damn son eating orange chicken and broccoli beef, and I'm sitting there with a veggie spring roll and my fried rice. But it's good. Like, I'm gonna do videos about it because my whole series is about using mindfulness to lose weight. And when you're really honed in and focused on yourself, and this is huge for addiction recovery too, because cravings come in many forms, like craving a cigarette, craving certain kinds of food, craving meat. Mindfulness helps you kind of just watch your body state and just notice what it feels like. So as soon as we walked in and those smells hit me, I realized the craving started to rise, and then I could manage it. And then I noticed that my emotions, like I was all pissed off. And then I'm like, oh, my frustration is coming from not being able to eat what I want to eat. You see what I'm saying? So mindfulness is very cool because then you start to really notice what's happening within your mind and body, and then you start to be able to actually manage it rather than just running amok and being crazy. Like just for example, like let's say I wasn't practicing mindfulness at Panda Express last night. I would have been very irritated with my son. My son, he's a talker. He loves talking, and I love talking to him. But that frustration of not being able to eat meat at Panda Express, like, what if I snapped at him? What if I was like, just shut up and eat your food, right? You know what I mean? Like, that's not fair. So mindfulness helps me monitor what's actually happening within me, and then I can manage it so I can be a good father to my son in that situation. And that's one of the reasons I'm going to do a whole series on mindfulness for parents, and I'm going to do a whole series on mindfulness for kids because that's a big deal. So today, day 2, vegan, vegetarian, not vegan, vegetarian. It's 10:15 a.m. and no meat yet. Also identifying the fear of change. Oh, how long did it take for the cloud to lift over your head, sort of speak, once you got clean, paranoia thoughts of Ooh, Ray. So Ray asked me how long it took for that cloud to be lifted. Long time. Long time. Not too long. I was taught mindfulness before I knew what mindfulness was. When you're in early recovery, you really have to focus on the small victories. You need to notice, like, this cloud that hangs over us when we get clean, all the guilt, the shame, the remorse, the self-hatred that we have. This cloud isn't one huge solid cloud. I think of it more like a bunch of little clouds. So for example, I started to forgive myself just a little bit, so part of that cloud was gone. I started to realize that I'm slowly becoming a better person, so a little bit more of that cloud was gone. So that cloud just slowly disappears, and I hope that makes sense with what I'm saying. It is this ongoing process, and that is another reason why we work the 12 steps, is because we need to learn how to overcome those things, right? I talk about all the time in groups, like, and my son's mom, she keeps giving me crap because I don't do a video with her. She's like doesn't really, I don't think she really wants to, but I'm going to get her on the camera. She hated me. My kid's mom hated my guts when I got sober. And she still didn't like me that much after I was sober for a year and a few months. And she actually saved my life one night. I was about to relapse. The only time I've ever really strongly considered relapsing, she actually was the one who called me, even though I never called her. She called me, and she talked me off that ledge. But anyways, me and her have this amazing relationship now. So that was one of the last clouds that was sitting over my head, and that one kind of went away, and we have an amazing relationship. And a lot of it is due to me and her just really looking out for the best interests of our son. We're able to both put our stuff aside, and a lot of that came from me not engaging in arguments, and like I can write a whole book on that, and I'm gonna have her do some videos with me, whether she likes or not. She's one of my best friends now. We can call and talk to each other and stuff like that. Her family is really good to me. Like I work at my rehab on holidays. You know, that's one of the ways that I give back that's one of the ways to get rid of that cloud, by the way, being of service. Be of service. On a psychological level, you gradually start forgiving yourself by doing good for others. Go speak, go share your story, write about your story, make a Twitter, make a Instagram, make a YouTube channel, do what I'm doing. Helping others helps you heal yourself, because trust me, I get that little bolt of lightning that's like, hey Chris, you're still a piece of crap, you know? But I try to remember all the good I'm trying to do today. Crap, I totally forgot where I was going before I got onto that side rant. But anyways, that cloud does lift, but you have to go through a healing process. It gradually goes away. All they told me, and when I say they, the people in 12-step fellowships as well as my sponsor, they said, all you have to do is stay sober one day at a time, keep working the steps, and I guarantee your life will get better. That's all they told me. They didn't tell me that the girlfriend was going to come back. They didn't say you were going to get a nice job. They didn't say you're going to make a lot of money. They didn't say you're going to have your son. They didn't say you're going to have all these things. They just told me they guarantee my life will get better if I do those two things. And that's the hope that I clinged on to. And it did. It did. It took some work, but it did. But yeah, us addicts, we want like a time frame. We want you to say, on October 25th, your life will be better. Like, that just doesn't happen, you know? So really try to recognize, and that's where gratitude lists help out a ton, because when that dark cloud is hanging over, recognize those things. Recognize the fact, like, oh, like, I'm not sick. Like, I'm not sick from withdrawal today. That is a plus. I have people I can turn to today to talk to. That is a plus. Like, writing that gratitude list really starts helping to balance the scales of the way your mind keeps that metaphorical black cloud or dark cloud over your head. That's a good question. I feel when I got off booze, it literally took me weeks, maybe months to feel clear-headed. Yeah, that takes a while. Booze is brutal. You too, Josh. You probably already left. But yeah, I felt clouded for a while. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, like, by the way, did I go down the wrong route with that cloud thing? I do mean like the fogginess of like just feeling kind of like off, because that's a whole different cloud that we could talk about. I'll talk about that for a second too. So one of the things that happened, like I used to be very like kind of like I am now. You're finally back to normal Chris. All of you have met normal Chris. In my addiction, I'll never forget one of my buddies, one of my best friends in the world. Me and him, he's like a brother to me. And he's not the one who's in recovery. He's one of my other best friends. And we used to work together. And when I was deep in my addiction, he never told me to quit drinking or using drugs. But one time, I remember we were working together, and he came up to me, and he was like, Chris, like, I don't care how much you drink or use drugs, but you're kind of getting dumber. And like that was like a moment of clarity. And trust me, I didn't get sober when that happened, but I knew it. Like, I always thought, like, I think I'm getting stupid. Like, it was hard for me to hold conversations. I wasn't quick-witted. I wasn't somebody who can hold a conversation. Like, alcohol and drugs were legitimately making me stupid. And that could be, just, effects like really early stages of wet brain, and luckily I got out of it, but I was really dumb. I was really dumb and slow, and I don't like using the word dumb, like nobody is dumb, but just the cloudiness and the fogginess. When I first got sober, that kind of cloudiness, it took a while to get back. What helped me get it back was having intellectual conversations, intellectual stimulus. What also helped me too, like, because I used to be a writer, so that's why I started writing again. And before I started doing these YouTube videos or Facebook videos or whatever it is, I was writing. I had my own website called pnprecovery.com, and before I switched to Rewired Soul, and I started writing again. Writing helps stimulate my brain too. So do things like, that's really good. Like, I'm glad we talked about that, because yeah, like, you do get your intellects back, and you can strengthen them too in recovery, but you got to find intellectually stimulating things to do. And a lot of us addicts and alcoholics, we're some of the smartest people on earth. Like, if you watch my YouTube video about how being an addict is like being a superhero, like, I talk about that. A lot of us are very, very smart people. I was going to use the word cunning. Cunning is a good word. But, like, we know how to solve problems. Like, think about it. Like, any of you who are potheads out there, like, how many things can you make a bong out of? You know what I mean? How many times did we think that there was no possible way that we could get high that day, and we figured a way out? The problem is that we need to take that and then switch it to something good. If we use that kind of intellect and problem-solving skill towards our real normal life, towards work, towards being a better parent, towards being a better spouse, towards being a better partner, to being a better friend, if we could take that kind of problem-solving ability and focus it towards good, like, us addicts and alcoholics can change the world, because we have gone through so many situations where like some people just look at a situation, they're like, oh, there's no way to do this. And people like you and me were like, no, there's a way. It's just we have to figure out an ethical and moral way to do those things. You all hear me? Those two words, ethical and moral. So us addicts and alcoholics, we're some smart people. So those of you just joining, I have 7 people in here right now. One second. It's National Recovery Month. This entire month of September is National Recovery Month. So I'm doing a live Q&A to answer questions about addiction, about mental illness. If you want to ask me about medications, if you want to ask me about sobriety, if you want to ask me about helping a loved one, like on my website right now, therewiredsoul.com, if you haven't yet, go there and pick up a free copy of my book. It's very short. It's very short. Anybody in here, have you read it yet? In the PDF format, it's like, I think less than 30 pages. So that's less than 30 Word doc pages. In actual book format, it's like 50 pages. I just make these short. I'm going to start trying to do it once a month, by the way. So I'm going to try to pick different specific topics and do them once a month. But anyways, the questions that I'm looking for, too, for anybody out there, like half the people who follow me are addicts in recovery or practicing addicts. And the other half of people are people who know an addict, have been hurt by an addict, who have been affected by an addict, you know, and this what's funny, not funny, what's interesting is the people in that first group, us addicts and alcoholics, we all know other addicts and alcoholics, and it affects our sobriety, it affects our recovery. So yeah, like that's one of the reasons I made that private Facebook support group, is because people have questions, they need to learn how to get through stuff, and we need to learn how to share our experience with each other. In my book, I gave a lot of different suggestions on how to do that stuff, and hopefully some people got some clarity on it. But yeah, that's what this live chat is for. Like, ask me questions no matter what it's about. For those of you who missed it, we had some questions about Methadone, Suboxone. We had some questions about 12-step programs, cloudiness. If any of you have anything about mental illness, you can ask me that as well. But yeah, give me one sec while I'm waiting for any questions to come in. I'm going to, oh look, I can look at the comments over here. Like, I'm using the Facebook app, and like the chat is kind of bad. Oh wait, that reminds me, maybe I should, oh, you know what, this happened last time. Hold on one sec. Oh wow, oh, this is cool, I can see who's in here. Wait, how? I don't want to see one person in here. Wait, oh no, did I break it? Did I break it? Okay, 6, 7 people in here now. Why does it say +6? That's weird. Anyways, I'm just updating my social media page. I'm hoping that I can still see your comments on here, because yeah, I might have screwed it up. Your posts have been great. I finished the. Oh yeah, okay. So look, this Facebook Live. So you guys are asking questions, but I can't see it. So let me do this. You're absolutely correct. Okay, let me see. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to figure out a way to read these comments. This computer app sucks. Okay, so you're absolutely correct on this. Methadone saved my life. Hold on. My question is, why is it an us versus them mentality between NA and MAT? It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. And I think, so MAT. So for those of you who don't know, MAT, M-A-T, is medically assisted treatment. I think. Medically assisted treatment. I think it is. But anyways, like, another reason why I'm working on that other book is because we need to stop. We need to stop doing that. We need to stop, like, man, if you have been in addiction the way I have, if you were at that point where you were hopeless and you wanted your life to end because there was no light at the end of the tunnel, like, whatever is keeping you clean or whatever is giving you a better life, do it. But anyways, it's 2017. It is 2017. Like, I think I made a video on this, maybe in my depression hacks video, but what a slap in the face it is to medical science to take all these advances and money and everything that they're doing to find ways to help keep us sober and then look down on people who are taking these medications. But in Narcotics Anonymous, in NA, they have literature on taking medications. So what I'll say is this: I have found that NA is a lot more open-minded than AA, just in my experience. But also, I've been to AA groups that are more liberal and open-minded on that stuff as well. So you might just be going to bad meetings where they're kind of looking down on that stuff. But for the most part, it talks about it in the literature. I don't have my big book in front of me. I have it on my phone, but it's hard to pull up page numbers. On page 133 of the AA Big Book, it talks about how we should never discount what a doctor or psychologist offers us or gives us. So it says that in a book that was written in the 1930s. So why are people looking down on it? Like, they were talking about it back then. Why are we having an issue with it now? Like, I don't know. I don't know. Like, do what you got to do. You do your thing, boo. Like it shouldn't be an us versus them. Like, my recommendation is hang out with better people. Why can't I see all the comments? I finished the book, and I think it's really good and very helpful to people. There should be more books like it. Yes, there should be. There are some, and I'm going to read them. Like, one of the things I want to do, there's a really good book out there about codependency, and that is a topic that I'm not as well versed on as I need to be and want to be, because codependency is huge. It's huge. When we talk about mental illness, when we talk about addiction, codependency is right alongside it for so many reasons. Most addicts and alcoholics who struggle, they're codependent. A lot of addicts and alcoholics have at least one or two codependent people in their life. We have a tendency to get into codependent relationships. So there's so much about codependency, and I wish I was more well-versed on it. So I'm going to read books. I'm going to hopefully do videos on that, because not only does codependency keep us sick and in our addiction, but when we're codependent towards other people, we keep them sick and keep them in their addiction. We think we're helping them, but we're actually fueling the fire. And then, in turn, it's also affecting our mental health if we're being codependent. And the whole Rewired Soul, the whole point of it is to encourage good mental health. And I've had to pivot a couple times, but like my overall plan, my overall goal, and I talk about this in my channel trailer on my YouTube channel, is that people care as much about their mental health as they do their physical health. Like, when somebody looks down, they say, oh, my stomach's getting big. I want people to do that with their brain too, where they say, oh, I'm acting in an unhealthy way right now. The same thing. We need to start doing that, and codependency is huge. Ego action, like, this thing is crazy. Like, I don't even know how these comments work. Here's what I'm going to do, y'all. I'm going to actually click on my video. I'm going to mute it, and then I'm going to read the comments. This is why you get two monitors, people. Okay, yes, absolutely. So let's see. Ego acting. What do you think? Oh, wow. I'm way far behind on these comments. Oh, man. Am I even still live? Are people still commenting? Oh, wait. Do comments pop up at the top? I don't even know. Like, I'm such a computer nerd, and I cannot figure out these things. Maybe. Let's try this. If you have questions, like, feel free to post them. I'm gonna find them. I'm gonna find these questions, because I know you guys aren't just sitting in there with your mouth stuffed with cotton or a towel or something. So let's try doing this. Oh, dang, I've been on here for 48 minutes. What's up? Okay, maybe it was. So yes, it is. You are absolutely correct. Became a MAT certified. Oh, Erica, cool. Yeah, and Erica, I need to get back with you. We need to talk and work on some stuff together, because that's a huge thing. We need to get together and do some videos, or you need to educate me a little bit more about that. Okay. Oh, okay. So hold on. Alexa said something. I saw that you started that journey, Chris. I just started my journey on a vegan diet. Ooh, you're better than me. It's been a little over a week, and it's been amazing and stuff. Yeah, and like I said in my vegetarian video, like, I know vegan is the way to go. It's just I need to take baby steps, because the way I know myself and I hate it because it's a cop-out. I know myself, and I have to take baby steps, because if I don't, if I plunge into things and try to do something head on, like, I psych myself out, I give up, the depression comes back, it's weird. I'm going to do a whole video about quitting smoking and my experience with Chantix, but yeah, good for you on the vegan thing, because I know it's the right way to go. Like, I'm not supposed to be drinking what comes out of a cow. Out of a cow. Speaking of mindfulness, Headspace have sent me a code for a free month. Yes, wait. If you're still in here, yes, dude. I'm not sure how many people, but if you want to try it, the code they sent me, it's just in your email. Like, do it. Do that free month. Like, man, it sucks too. Like, okay, so I'm gonna give you a Headspace free month hack. Most of their courses in there are for a month. Find four different topics. Like, it will say improving stress, improving concentration, improving relationships, improving motivation. They have all these different things. Do a week of each, and so that way you get 4 different things. Like, once I make money, like, I don't know. I work with a meditation teacher, and he's trying to wean me off of using apps and guided meditation. But sometimes I just like to use them if my head's like extra. If my head's really bouncing all over the place, I need to have a guided meditation. But yeah, Headspace is one that I would definitely, if I was going to pay for a service, it would definitely be Headspace. You know what? I have a video that I haven't chopped up and edited yet, but it's my top 3 mindfulness hacks, and I actually go through the pros and cons of each one. So I'm glad we're talking about that, because I need to make one. Thank you, Alexis. I'm just replying to your comment. Your post has been great. Okay, so going back down. Ego, acting character defects. That's my take on it anyway. Yeah, I'm not that far off the comments. Yeah, thank you, Ray. Yeah, okay, so people just are chilling here watching me, just looking at me like a bunch of creepers. Like, you're in here. So here, I'll encourage you to ask me questions the same way I encourage my clients. Unless you know everything there is to know about addiction and mental illness, you probably got a question. So please ask it. So I know you got some, but I've been on here for 48 minutes. I'll probably do another 10 minutes or so. I would love to learn more about codependence. Yeah. So basically, let's do this. We'll wrap it up. I'm not even wrap it up. I got time. It's the morning. I'm going to go to the gym pretty soon, but it's Saturday. What? So let's see. Signs of codependency. Symptoms of codependency. So let's talk about this real quick. So low self-esteem. Feeling that you're not good enough or comparing yourself to others are signs of low self-esteem. The tricky thing about self-esteem is that some people think highly of themselves, but it's only a disguise. That's super true. Oh, God, I don't really like low self-esteem. I don't like that being like one of the signs of codependency, because but that definitely ties in. I would say if you're codependent, most of the time you have low self-esteem. Now, people pleasing. That is a huge one. Codependency, one of the symptoms is people pleasing. We're too afraid to call somebody out on their stuff in fear of hurting their feelings or them having less of an opinion of us. That is a sign of codependency. So when we look at it with addiction, I'm afraid I'm going to upset you because I want to please you all the time, emotionally, mentally, whatever it is. Like, that is fueling their addictions. Most in addiction, we call it, with relationships, we call it taking somebody hostage. A lot of addicts and alcoholics find a codependent person to be in a relationship with because they know they can bulldoze them. You see what I'm saying? And they know, like, you know, I know from my addiction, it was hard for me to be in a relationship with somebody who was stronger and not codependent. You know what I'm saying? Because of that people pleasing. Poor boundaries. Codependents have poor boundaries. So, for example, let's say a mother is codependent to her son. She says, you know, let's say she tries to set up a boundary. If you do not stop getting high, I'm kicking you out of the house. Or in my case, it was my mom saying, so for example, my mom said, if you do not get sober and go to a sober living house, you're going to be homeless. And I went to that sober living, but let's say I didn't, and then she let me live with her. That would be her not setting that clear and actual firm boundary with me. That's something I talk about in the book. Like, if you set these boundaries, you have to take them. Caretaking. Oh, codependence. Oh! I leaned back so far, my dang headset fell off. Codependence and their caretaking. This is the biggest lie that codependents tell themselves. It's just like, oh, I just like to take care of people. That's what I do. And the problem is that you take care of an addict or an alcoholic until they die. So are you really taking care of them if you're doing that? But here's where it gets kind of mentally, well, all of codependence is like a form of mental illness, but some codependents act in a way where they purposely find people that they have to take care of, and sometimes a codependent will fuel a person's addiction so they can keep taking care of them. I hope that makes sense. Like, and that sucks. When a person keeps providing for the person or knows what they're going to do because they want the person sick, because the codependent needs somebody to take care of. That's a big issue. You're not far off the comments. I've been headspace such a Chris. Just taking in the knowledge that is being shared. I've learned a lot from your videos and lecture sharing. Thanks so much. You're welcome, Sue. So, codependency. Control helps codependents feel safe and secure. So yeah, that kind of ties into what I was just saying. Controlling the other person. But codependents are usually they're not the bulldozing type. Codependent is a lot more subtle with their control and how they control that situation. Dysfunctional communication, obsessions, dependency, denial. That's another one. A lot of codependents are in denial. Like I was saying, I'm not a codependent. I've just always been a caretaker. I just always take care of people. That's just what I do. No, that's what we tell each other, tell ourselves. And just so you know, like, I had a lot of codependency myself. I used to purposely find women who were sick or like mentally sick or psychologically, or they were struggling. I found people who were struggling because I was like, I just like taking care of people. I like helping people, and I realized that was hurting my recovery a lot, and I was in denial about it. I just like to help people, but recovery in general really helped me take a step back and realize what I was doing in those behaviors. So painful emotions. Codependency creates stress and leads to painful emotions. Shame and low self-esteem create anxiety and fear about being judged, rejected, or abandoned. Making mistakes, being a failure, all those things. That came from Psych Central. I don't know how much I like that. I think there was another one. I think this one was better. Is this it? Yes. Yes! This one's way better. I'll put a link to it in the comments. Let's see what pops up. Boop. Oh, snap. I can see the comments in here again. Look at all those like buttons. Ah! Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. It's like catching up right now. Okay, hold on. I put a link in the comments, but yeah. I'll take a little sip of this. A little sippity dip. Keep going. So yeah, how long's it been? How long have I been on here? Rambling, ranting. Not ranting. I'm dropping some knowledge. You know this. Let's see. Somebody else went live. Cool. I have Headspace already for a month. I have 15 days in a row. Great. Let's talk about that. How's it been using it 15 days in a row? Been good? Notice any changes? Any differences? I don't know if Ray's still there or if this thing stopped showing me comments again. I paid for a month. But yeah, like when I started meditating, like it's kind of like 12-step programs. Like for some people it works quickly, for some people it works slowly. my experience with meditating, like that, like my first time meditating, I'm like, whoa, like the way it calmed the noise down in my head. So I'm just curious what your experience is like using it for 15 days. Um, oh, Erica, here, let me. I just saw your comment, Erica. What is a good way to handle a teen who is continually vocally curious about drugs? How do you intervene? Obviously, can't make choices for them. That's huge. I don't know if the American Addiction Society or the American Society of Addiction Medicine still has this course up for free. I made a post about it on the Rewired Soul, not that on my Facebook page. Go through my post. I'll try to find it while I'm talking to you. But they American Society of Addiction Medicine